Bobco, liberating worlds from the inside out. Because they are more profitable than dictatorships. See our new Overthrow Your Government starter pack. It contains all you need for the perfect revolution, custom-tailored for your specific needs. Bobco Marketing Department. A hug when you need it most can do more for you than 100 battle wagons. Anonymous. Afraid. Of course we were afraid. But they tried to steal away our dreams, and even a second-hand dream was more than we had ever had. All it took was a single spark, and the fear ignited into an unstoppable rage. We refused to be slaves to their will any more. We went to war for something the Terrors had taught others long before they ever left their cradle world. We die free. Baguja, author of It Tastes Like Blood, and Victory. Protulpit bruxed her back teeth as she watched the cartoon version of a slap fight with a cartoon representative of the beloved Emperor over a bag of something called buttered popcorn, with the Emperor yelling that caramel popcorn was better, and her cartoon yelling that buttered garlic popcorn was the future. She could be put to death for such a thing if the Emperor or one of his many eyes saw the cartoons and took them seriously. The insect was laughing uproariously, his head thrown back, fanning himself with his LED-edged hat, as the text in the chat room urged on either Pratichon or Impichon, and threw credits out to bolster one or the other. Worse, little tiny pictures, some animated, some not, of her were being added to chat. Something called emojis, that the beings talking in chat seemed to love. She knew she was being ridiculed, but could figure out no counter. All her yelling did was make her cartoon version repeat everything she said in a high, breathless, squeaky voice while blinking her large eyes. She turned to another holotank, moving over to the technician. "Status of the other 3 teams?" she asked. "They entered the airlock, and we immediately lost contact," the technician said, flinching. "We have been trying to re-establish communication, but have had no success so far." "Find a way," Protulpit snarled. She moved over to the commander of the Way of the Mean's troops. "Get together a triple-strength strike team. Enter the facility. Demand the return of our soldiers and our scientists." The commander nodded. "You shall lead them. You are the Emperor's most faithful," Protulpit said. The commander, Senior Imperial Fist Ch.5, nodded solemnly, turning away and leaving the command center. Protulpit turned back to the holotank in time to see her cartoon self jump on the Emperor's back and pour popcorn, and something called liquid hate over his crowned head, to the laughter of the annoying insect and the mocking of the chat. She had never hated anyone as strongly as she hated her cartoon self. Sif Ch.5 moved to the only functioning entryway to the Terra facility, which was located deep beneath the surface of the lunar body. She punched in the code that was written in paint stick just above the keypad, and the door slowly opened. It was barely large enough to fit her, unlike the large door that had been previously used. She stepped in, looking back at her armored troops. She had brought nearly every Way of the Mean's soldier with her, armored up and heavily armed, with strict instructions to retrieve the scientists. The airlock door closed. She felt a moment of vertigo and reached out to steady herself. The light on the far door was blinking, saying the airlock was cycling. It took nearly 15 minutes before her suit registered an increase in air pressure. When it stabilized, the inner airlock door opened, revealing a hallway. One of the Terror stood there, a female, barely dressed in shimmering translucent sheer muslin cloth. "Greetings, valued customer," the Terror said. "Take me to the rest of my people. I demand that you release them immediately," Sif Ch.5 stated. She had learned, doing research, that expedition teams had had better luck by treating the Terrors with respect while also projecting authority. The Terror signified pleasure. "I would be glad to assist you in joining your fellow beings. Might I know your name so I may address you properly, valued customer?" "I am Senior Imperial Fist Ch.5, she stated, sure that the Terror could not pronounce her name correctly with such small and blunt dentation. "Valued customer Ch.5," the Terror said, and Ch.5 felt her whiskers twitch in shock. The accent and the grind were perfect. "Simply accompany me, and we will go to where you can join your people." Ch.5 nodded, following the Terror. Ch.5 had to admit, the jewelry the Terror wore in their pointed ears, as well as the jewelry on her arms and around her neck, made Ch.5 slightly jealous. It was lovely, with delicately clashing colors to draw the eyes, fine precious metal work, and the ability to lead the viewer's eyes to how elegant the Terror was. Rather than feel diminished by the Terror's beauty and elegance, Ch.5 began to feel as if being in the presence of the Terror actually enhanced her own beauty. There was a single stop in a wonderfully decorated room with a weapon rack against the far wall. Ch.5 noted there were nearly a dozen rifles and just over a dozen pistols in the rack. For your safety and the safety of other valued customers, firearms are not permitted beyond this point without waivers or a valid Hamburger Kingdom ID, valued customer Ch.5, the Terror said. "If I don't?" Ch.5 asked. "The weaponry will be disassembled and reclaimed, with a cost added to your bill, or you will be forcefully ejected from the facility, with all medical costs due to injuries incurred the sole responsibility of your government," the Terror smiled. "However, someone as martially impressive as you, valued customer senior Imperial Fist Ch.5, needs no weapon or armor to show your authority." Ch.5 thought about it, then nodded. Going along with Terror demands always seemed to produce better results than getting turned into vapor. She racked her weapons and gear, then let two slender and short Terror males help her out of her armor. The whole time she admired the architecture of the room, the decorations. She was led to a reclining chair that shifted underneath her until she was perfectly comfortable, even though she was now nude. It felt like reclining on a soft cloud. She even relaxed in the chair, letting the two small-framed, slender male Terrors massage the muscles in her feet while she drank a Bing Cola Cherry thirst quencher and signed for her weaponry, armor, and gear. For the first time, she felt like someone appreciated her dedication to her job as the male Terrors began rubbing her legs and complimenting her musculature and her muscle tone. She felt like they understood as the two small female Terrors gave her a manicure, complimenting her on her strong fingers and the calluses they used a rough stone to abrade away. She appreciated the singing by the small female Terrors that had iridescent wings on their backs that slowly flapped as they played the large stringed instrument she learned was called a harp, as the other females sang slow sad songs. "Good news, valued customer Ch.5, the tall female Terror said. Ch.5 said, her eyes closed beneath the slices of something called a cucumber, leaned back in the chair as her fur was soaped and rubbed. "You have been gifted a 3-month subscription and a For the Glory of the Emperor DLC pack by Rave Mouse Rules 89812, the tall female Terror said. "Please forward my gratitude to that being," Ch.5 said. She turned her head and sipped at the straw, enjoying the taste of the tart grapefruit, orange, and vodka drink called a screwdriver that was being held in a frosted glass by a short male Terror with iridescent wings. "Of course, valued customer," the Terror said. Honestly, Ch.5 couldn't see why everyone was so terrified of the Terrors. They seemed perfectly nice. Staring at the holotank, Protulpit bruxed her teeth and clenched her fist. Now a cartoon version of Senior Imperial Fist Ch.5 had joined the bottom of the Trinidad stream. The cartoon had the fist dancing, her feet shoulder-width apart, left hand pointed straight down, the other arm upraised at a 45-degree angle, then brought down across the chest to point down at the opposite angle. The cartoon version of the fist was dressed in the single shoulder dress. "Let's welcome Cricket-chan," the Trinidad said. "She's here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, so if you don't want your ass kicked, you better donate her some bubblegum. The age of buttered popcorn is now." Protulpit's cartoon avatar repeated from where it looked like it was swinging on the brim of the Trinidad's hat. Protulpit stared in hatred as donations started flowing in. Downloadable content packs, expansion packs, cash shop credits, subscription tiers, and time. Within a few minutes, Senior Imperial Fist Ch.5 had racked up nearly 2 years of Super Platinum War Steel Edition time, a dozen expansion packs, 20 DLCs, and millions of cash shop credits, all from various viewers with a ton of different names. Her eyes were bleary, her fur slightly disheveled, and her hands shook, all from exhaustion, as she sat and watched as every member of the Fist Strike team was loaded with gifts from well-wishers. The technicians found channels that were solely devoted to singular members of the strike team, or small groups, all of them with sole streaming rights. Each channel had viewers in the tens of millions. Races from all over the fallen Confederacy were streaming and viewing. She burned with hatred as she watched. She was exhausted. She needed sleep. But she needed to regain control of everything. If only she could figure out how. Ch.5 kicked the little green bastard off her sword, brains and blood spewing from his shattered skull, and took a quick scan of the battlefield. The green-skinned goblins, with their long hooked noses, scraggly black hair, twisted bodies, and beady red eyes, were starting to try to break contact from her sentry. Their morale is failing. Press the attack. Ch.5 roared out over the din of steel on steel, screams of agony or victory, and the clash of battle. Behind her, the wounded shield maiden pulled her horn around, put it to her lips, raised her face to the sky, and blew one long note. Holding her blade in both hands, Ch.5 hewed at the greenskins, chopping off arms, splitting skulls, ripping through torsos. Their hide or leather armor was no match for her enchanted sword, her skill, or her muscles, and they fell before her like wheat before the scythe. "For the Emperor!" she roared out, a swing of her blade ripping the goblin in half. The others started screaming and running, racing back across the burnt field for the safety of the forest. Transferring her blade to her offhand, she bent down, picked up a goblin spear, and threw it at a retreating greenskin. "Take this with you, greenskin." The spear took it in the back, and it fell face down. Her wounded shield maiden blew the signal to hold the line, not to pursue into the forest. Other shield maidens, and some of the villagers moved through the wounded goblins, finishing off the wounded and making sure that the dead were really dead. Ch.5 handed her blade to a shield maiden, reaching up and pulling off her battle-steel helmet and handing it to another shield maiden. Her second in command, Adjutant Imperial Fist Ch.5, strode through the dead and the burnt stubble of harvest grain, stopping and saluting Ch.5 by banging her fist against a cuirass over her heart. "By the Emperor, we taught those greenskins the meaning of fear," Ch.5 said. She pulled off her helmet, handing it to a shield maiden, and accepted a heavy ceramic mug of ale from a grateful villager. "Tomorrow we'll follow them back to their lair and purge them in the Emperor's name," Ch.5 said. "And their young and females?" Ch.5 asked. "Nits make lice," Ch.5 answered with a shrug, accepting a heavy pewter mug of her own. The ale was crisp and cold. "Commander," the village's mage called out, hurrying across the battlefield. His robe was spotted with stains, his fur unkempt, and his whiskers crooked. Ch.5 pushed down her instinctive distrust of the creature and lifted her chin. "Yes?" she asked. "High Lord Protulpit wishes to speak with you," the greasy-looking male said, his eyes glowing a faint purple with his power. "Now, at the moment I am savoring victory," Ch.5 asked. She gave a sigh, took another drink from the mug before passing it back to the shield maiden. "Very well." The male made a few passes with his hands, and an orb appeared. Inside was a noble Diarrat Fulton, wearing luxurious robes, expensive jewelry, staring at what Ch.5 knew was a crystal orb of messaging. "Yes?" Ch.5 asked, lifting her snout slightly to stare down at the orb. "Report," the noble female demanded, her whiskers quivering with self-importance. "The greenskins were attacking the humble village of 9 Whisker Falls," Ch.5 said. "My loyal troops, in the Emperor's name, broke the back of their assault and intend on mounting a punitive expedition in the morn." You are supposed to be gathering up my personnel and returning to the ship, the Dr. Fulton Empire noblewoman yelled. Do not raise your voice to me, court functionary, Ch.5 said. I fight for the Emperor, the Empire, and imperial citizens. Go back to counting your coins and plotting to make your betters miserable. Begone from my sight. The mage let the imaging orb collapse. Go, regain your strength, strangely blessed one, Ch.5 ordered the mage. We ride at dawn to purge the greenskins and ensure your village suffers their depredations no more. The mage nodded, hurrying away. Ch.5 knew she shouldn't hold the mage in disgust, but spellwork was unnatural to her. Even though he too served the glory of the Emperor, Ch.5 knew, in her soul, that magic corrupted even the purest. She strode into the village to the cheers of the locals, who had seen their village go from certain doom to the sight of a great victory with the arrival of Ch.5's 150. Females and males of the workers' caste were dancing, instruments were playing impromptu tunes, and small male workers were tossing flowers at Ch.5 and her troops. Laughing, she picked up a short male and rubbed the side of his snout with her nose, making him laugh, squirm, and giggle. Get 2 friends to help me out of my armor, and then perhaps more, Ch.5 said, setting the male down. The male, his eyes shining with hero worship, nodded, his hands clenched in the middle of his chest, his ears wide with excitement. He rushed off as Ch.5 moved up to the mayor, who had his hat in his hands. My appreciation to the village guards, who held the greenskins long enough for us to arrive and succor you, Ch.5 said. The mayor bobbed his head in agreement. My troops and I will ride out on the morn to purge the greenskins and secure the safety of your village, Ch.5 continued. She turned and looked at her loyal 150. The Emperor protects, she said. The rightness of protecting the Emperor's servants filled her with a sense of purpose and duty beyond anything else. Protolpit stared at the holotank as the image of the commander of the Way of the Mean's troops vanished. With a scream she grabbed a keyboard and threw it across the room, shattering it against the far bulkhead.